Welcome. Welcome to Reparation News. Okay, so I don't know how the homie Garfield can't read broke this information before I did, but he pulled up what I'm about to show you on his show. And he actually reported on reparations and he read the article. His name is Garfield Can't Read though. I don't know how he did that, bro. He's got some mystical powers. All right, so let's figure this part out. Figure out how to use these electronics here. Somebody reacted. Okay, got a little reaction. Got it. Now let's pull up the article. It's article right here. I want you to see. You got to see it. You got to see it, bro. Here we go. All right, let me find out where we at. USA Today. And the date is July 15th, 2020. The ink ain't even dried on it yet. Ink ain't even dry. In historic move, North Carolina City approves reparations for Black residents. What city you talking about there, bro? Asheville. Joe Burgess, we appreciate you for exposing this information to the earth. We appreciate you, Joe. Now, you take a look at here. Take a look at here. They first published it at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they updated it at 1:22. So we don't get to see the updates. All right, it says here, Asheville, North Carolina, an extraordinary move. See, you see what I'm saying? Like they make it all like fancy, like it's amazing, like it's impossible, like it's a miracle. An extraordinary move. The Asheville City Council has apologized for the North Carolina city's historic role in slavery. That's what apology comes first. You realize that you fucked up. At this moment, you realize they fucked up. Then you apologize for it, and then you offer the restitution. You restore the problem. I don't understand what the problem is actually, but you know these big wigs they're gonna have to get it and figure it out because you are public servants. Okay, so it says here discrimination and denial of basic liberties to Black residents and voted to provide reparations to them and their descendants. Not their residents, their descendants. Okay, so just like I know his name is Garfield Can't Read, he read that as residents. The word is clearly descendants. The 7-0 vote came the night of July 14th. That was the night before July 15th. Hundreds of years of Black blood spilled that basically fills the cup we drink from today, said Councilman Keith Young, one of two African American members of the body and the measure's chief proponent. It is simply not enough to move statutes, remove statutes. Garfield read that as statues. So I'm kind of semi remembering what he was reading when he read it on his show. Black people in this country are dealing with issues that are systemic in nature. Go subscribe to Dagger Squad Incorporated and unsubscribe from here. Black people in this country are dealing with issues that are systemic in nature. The unanimously passed resolution does not mandate direct payments. Boo! 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 What my tomatoes at? Cut the cut the mofo check, man. Cut the check. Nobody told you. Who the fuck told you that this is was something intelligent to do? Does not mandate direct payments. What is you talking about? Instead, it will make investments in areas where Black residents face disparities. We face disparities in every area. And investments, man, that's a trick bag. That's a trick bag. Investments, what? You trying to make us the borrower and not the lender again. You keeping the residents of Asheville enslaved. That's what you're doing. Let me show you the text that I'm referencing here. See? See? You don't know what you're doing. And the Most High didn't tell you to do nothing like that. Says here, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Like Obama said, some people ain't been reading their Bibles. People ain't been reading their Bible. You don't see that? It's clear as day. To the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Brother, who the hell told you to allow investments in the reparations plan? Who gave you that reparation plan? Investments? These should be forgivable loans. If the loans are not forgivable, then what the fuck are you talking about? Investments. There better be grants. There got to be grants. I don't see no other way. So maybe I'm speaking too soon. Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but I'm going to right after this. And it shall be, okay, as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. So, that's kind of irrelevant to what I'm really speaking about. So I just wanted you to see that, Asheville, and don't worry. I'm getting ready to send it to you. I'm getting ready to send this video right here directly to you. So pay attention. Get your paper, your paper. Let me show you. Get your notepad out and your pen and take notes. Because you realize that you fucked up, but you didn't. What you didn't do was you didn't execute the reparations plan correctly, as defined by people who talk about reparations correctly. You see what I'm saying? So now, every other city in the world is going to do what you did and do investments instead of cutting the motherfucker check. Who authorized that? The city council? Who told you to do that, man? You didn't, I don't believe you talked to nobody that fights for reparations your whole life. Because you would have remembered that lesson. If you would have ever had that conversation as a youngin', you would have remembered that money answers everything. Money answers everything. Oh, you don't believe me? Oh, you're talking about God and mammon, huh? That's what's on your mind, God and memory. Oh, man, I love that I get the opportunity to teach because I just recently became a teacher. Now, a feast is made for laughter. Wine makes people happy, but money answers everything. That's what it says right there. See, I can read. You understand? So now, if you think this is a moral high ground and that the 5 white council members were intelligent and moral and wise enough and mature enough to accept your resolution that you fought for, you see, it calls you the main proponent for it. So clearly, you must have had to argue about it behind the scenes in order to get to that unanimous vote that you got to. So if you're arguing about it, why is it even an argument? Why are people resistant to it? Okay, so that should tell you something about their character. And if you're basing uh, this repentance on character, then you have to take into account the instruction for character, which is found here in this thing here. It's called the Biblios. It's called the Bible. Okay, so now, Mr. Mr. Asheville, here we go. Let's get back to it. Reparations. How much would the United States owe descendants of enslaved people? The resulting budgetary and programmatic priorities may include, but not be limited to, increasing minority home ownership and access to other affordable housing, increasing minority business ownership and career opportunities, strategies to grow equity and generational wealth, closing the gaps in healthcare, education, employment and pay, neighborhood safety, and fairness within criminal justice, the resolution reads. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is go ahead and get your fair share first. You get yours first. Then what you're going to need to do is hire 4 teams of bodyguards. You're going to need to do that. You're going to need to do that. All 7 of you are going to need bodyguards. Hope you know that. I'm just letting you know. This is just what I always offer to people like Freddie Gray. You know, Freddie Gray was the young man, if you don't know, who the police broke his back and killed him. This was after he won a lawsuit against that local police force. So I always tell people, whenever you win and you have the money in your hand, make sure you move. If you don't want to squander your money on bodyguards, move. The other cities and states don't know that you won that money. See what I'm saying? So the police in that new local area that you move to are not going to be aware that you fought the police in court and won. They don't appreciate you winning. They will break your back. So now, all I'm telling you is, since you're city council members, you're not going to be able to move. So you're going to need to hire bodyguards. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Moving on. What is systemic racism? Here's what it means and how you can help dismantle it. Increasing generational wealth should be the focus, supporter says. The resolution calls on the city to create the Community Reparations Commission, inviting community groups and other local governments to join. It will be the commission's job to make concrete recommendations for programs and resources to be used. The councilwoman Shanika Smith, who is Black, said the council had gotten emails from those asking, why should we pay for what happened during slavery? Slavery is this institution that serves as the starting point for the building of the strong economic floor for white America, while attempting to keep Blacks subordinate forever to its progress, Smith said. Councilman Vijay Kapoor, who has often split with Young and Smith on police and budget issues, said he supported the measure for moral reasons. Moral reasons. See, so Kapoor kind of sounds, Vijay, that kind of sounds like an Indian name to me. I could be wrong. Apologize, Councilman Kapoor, if that's incorrect. But he didn't place your ethnicity in the article. But he said skeptics could look to the practical reason. Data showing large disparities between African Americans and other Asheville residents. We don't want to be held back by these gaps, Kapoor said. We want everyone to be successful. Now, your converging interest in having everyone be successful is that the businesses that are already in place and the success that is newly arrived to the disenfranchised, once their standing and their bank account grows, they will have to patronize the businesses that are already in place. So that is a symbiotic relationship, that is a synchronistic relationship, that is a synergetic relationship versus versus what we have historically seen as an like a blood-sucking relationship. You know what I mean? Like I forget the term that I'm looking for right now, but the like a blood-sucking relationship. You understand? Like a leech type of situation. That's how the businesses in place have placed themselves strategically in the areas of where Black people are, so that they can spend their money with them. But Black people don't have lots and lots and lots of money, so money is quickly just disappears from the Black community. So we don't even have enough to save up and even come together as a community in order to build our own everything. You understand? So that's an important understanding that should go on, and thought process that should be considered whenever you move forward with this. We don't want to be held back by these gaps, Kapoor said. We want everyone to be successful. See, that's a beautiful statement and sentiment, and that's how it should be handled to produce success. So when you say investments, I got to look into it, because I apologize for not knowing what banks are going and community banks are going to be investing in the community. So I'm going to look into that. But I'm mainly sharing this with my audience, but I'm telling you that you need to cut the check, bro. You can't, and they better be grants. They better not be loans. You understand? So now the council, now you got to deal with your credit score. Everybody has to fix their credit. They're already too broke to fix their credit. They're already $20,000 in debt. You're gonna pay off that $20,000 debt, and then wait 6 months for their debt, their credit score to go to 650, and then you're gonna educate every member of Asheville on credit literacy so that they can have trade lines, open trade line, open trade lines, and then raise their score up to 800? You gonna do that? Okay. Well, if you're not gonna do that, then just give them the money. Then let them spend it. If that's what they know to do, let them do it. But see, there's always gonna be talented people in Nashville who are going to become severely successful. And then that success is going to synergize with the other blacks in the community who need their help to learn credit, um, knowledge, and how money works in general. So just let them spend it. Everybody's not going to squander it. The council allowed an hour of public comment on the measure. Many who were not able to speak before the vote waited for another hour-long comment period afterward, pushing the meeting late into the night. Most were in support. Rob Thomas, community liaison for the Racial Justice Coalition, which led the push for reparations, thanked the council. Rob Thomas, community liaison for the Racial Justice Coalition. That's who told you this information. And this guy told you that don't give anybody any money? He's fired. He's fired. This is a really, really good gesture as far as the foundation of what we can build, Thomas said. The potential of what can come out of this document is amazing. Increasing generational wealth, something African Americans were deprived of through economic and regulatory discrimination, should be the focus, he said. It was also important that the county's government join. Thomas said to ensure issues weren't lost between the county and city. The Buncombe County's Board of Commissioners is not clearly behind the reparations measure, though it has a 4-3 Democratic majority. Resolution supporting community reparations for Black Asheville by Joel Burgess on Scribed. Resolution number 20, resolution supporting community reparations for Black Asheville, whereas Black people have been unjustly enslaved, and whereas Black people have been unjustly segregated, and whereas Black people have been unjustly incarcerated, and whereas Black people have been denied housing through racist practices in the private realty market, including redlining, steering, blockbusting, denial of mortgages, and gentrification. Wow, it's amazing. Blockbusting. Whereas Black people have been denied housing, displaced, and inadequately housed by government housing policies that include discriminatory VA FHA practices, urban renewal, and a variety of local and federal affordable housing programs, and whereas Black people have been consistently and widely impoverished by discriminatory wages paid in every sector of the local economy, regardless of credentials and experience. And whereas Black people have experienced disproportionate unemployment rates and reduced opportunities to fully participate in the local job market. And whereas Black people have been systematically excluded from historic and present private economic development and community investments, and therefore Black-owned businesses have not received the benefits of these investments. That's a fact. And whereas Black people have been segregated from mainstream education and within present day school programs that include AG, AP, and honors. And whereas Black students have experienced the denial of education through admission, retention, and graduation rates of every level of education in WNC, uh, and through discriminatory disciplinary practices. So, I mean, I have experienced every last one of these, and so it's kind of making me highly emotional. Whereas Black people historically and presently receive inadequate, if not detrimental, health care, as exemplified by disproportionate morbidities and mortality rates that result from the generational trauma of systemic racism, discrimination treatment by medical professionals, and discriminatory medical practices such as involuntary sterilizations, denial of adequate testing, denial of preventative and curative procedures, and whereas Black people have been unjustly targeted by law enforcement and criminal justice procedures, incarcerated at disproportionate rates, and subsequently excluded from full participation in the benefits of citizenship that include voting, employment, housing, and healthcare. And whereas Black people have disproportionately been forced to reside in, adjacent to, or near brown zones and other toxic sites that negatively impact their health and property. And whereas, wow, this dude has it all. I mean, he identified close to everything possible. Black people have disproportionately been limited to the confined routes of travel provided by public transportation, and whereas Black people have disproportionately suffered from the isolation of food deserts and childcare deserts, whereas systemic racism was created over centuries and will take time to dismantle. Whereas state and federal governments have a responsibility to adopt programs, policies, and funding to address reparations. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Asheville that the City Council of the City of Asheville, one, apologizes and makes amends for its participation in and sanctioning of the enslavement of Black people. That would be the priority. Okay. Two, apologizes and makes amends for its enforcement of segregation and its accompanying discriminatory practices. Three, apologizes and makes amends for carrying out an urban renewal program that destroyed multiple successful Black communities. Four, calls on other organizations and institutions in Asheville that have advanced and benefited from racial inequity to join the city in its apologies and invites them to address racism within their own structures and programs and to work with the city to more comprehensively address systemic racism. Five, calls on the state of North Carolina and the federal government to initiate policy making and provide funding for reparations at the state and national levels. Six, directs the city manager to establish a process within the next year to develop short, medium, and long-term recommendations to specifically address the creation of generational wealth and to boost economic mobility and opportunity in the Black community. Seven, fully supports its equity department, staff, and its work, and encourages the city manager to utilize their talents when forming policy and programs that will establish the creation of generational wealth and address reparations due in the Black community, as mentioned above. Seeks to establish within the next year a new commission empowered to make short, medium, and long-term recommendations that will make significant progress toward repairing the damage caused by public and private systemic racism, other local government community. Organizations may also be invited to have representation on the commission. The task of the Community Reparations Commission is to issue a report in a timely manner for consideration by the city and other participating community groups for incorporation into their respective short and long-term priorities and plans. Accountability for achieving equity will be enforced in the appropriate offices. The report and the resulting budgetary and programmatic priorities may include, but not be limited to, increasing minority home ownership and access to other affordable housing, increasing minority business ownership and career opportunities, strategies to grow equity and generational wealth, closing the gaps in healthcare, education, employment, and pay, neighborhood safety and awareness within criminal justice, calls on the city manager to give, at minimum, a biannual update to the City Council on the progress of work performed pursuant to this resolution. Read, approved, and adopted this 14th day of July 2020, and signed by the city clerk, the mayor, and the city attorney. So, I mean, the battle's already won. The war is already won. The war is over. Uh, the war actually is won by the conversation being in the international scope, you see, which includes all localities. So once the conversation got launched into the international scope, it's that's called a critical mass that then produces the result that you see here. You see, all right, many Americans might not get another stimulus check. Okay, so that's the end of that. Systemic racism, what is it exactly and how do we fight it? The movement to end systemic racism. Let's take a look here. Kim, hallelujah, shalom. Right back. Doing a report on reparations win, where Asheville approved reparations for no. Okay, so you're saying okay, so who want me? You want me to talk to somebody in Africa? When? All right. All right. All right, Pete. Okay. So let's see what he's talking about. Yeah. this a picture? Yeah, I think this is just a picture, maybe. It's not. It's not. It's not even a video play. It's telling me to press play, but it's not playing. That's strange. Moving on. All right, so I think that's the end of the article, and thanks for listening. We win. We continue to win. Shout out to the nation of Yasharon, the youngest nation in the earth, accepted and adopted into the African Unions. Yeah. So thanks for listening.